Your mind holds a power you've barely begun to understand. For years, negative thoughts have shaped your emotions, influenced your decisions, and buried your confidence without you even noticing. But that ends now. You're stepping into a space where clarity replaces confusion, calm replaces chaos, and inner strength finally takes the lead. Welcome to Break Free from Negative Thinking. Reclaim Your Mind Vertical Bar Audiobook. Here, you'll uncover why negative patterns form, how they quietly guide your daily life, and most importantly, how to dismantle them piece by piece. You're not just listening to a guide. You're entering a journey of mental freedom, emotional reset, and personal rebirth. Get ready to shift your mindset, rebuild your inner foundation, and rediscover the version of yourself that negativity tried to hide. Your transformation begins now. Let's dive in. Negative thoughts often operate in silence, shaping the direction of your life long before you realize their influence. They create a filter through which you interpret every experience, causing even neutral situations to feel heavier or threatening. When this mental lens becomes your default, it narrows your ability to see opportunities, solutions, and the brighter sides of challenging moments. This subtle shift begins to define your identity, convincing you that negativity is simply part of who you are. Without noticing, you start believing that struggle is normal and peace is temporary. This unspoken cost slowly drains your emotional strength. The weight of negative thinking can seep into your motivation, making even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Instead of seeing progress, you begin to notice only pressure and possible failure. This mindset discourages you from taking steps forward because your thoughts convince you that success is unlikely. In time, hesitation becomes a habit, and the fear of trying grows stronger. The cost of inaction becomes hidden behind the loudness of doubt, leaving your dreams untouched. Your inner potential remains locked away because your thoughts keep telling you to stay where it feels familiar. Relationships also suffer quietly under the influence of negativity. When your mind is filled with mistrust, worry, or self-criticism, it becomes harder to genuinely connect with others. You might interpret people's words in the harshest way, assume the worst intentions, or pull back emotionally to protect yourself. These reactions create distance, even when those around you care deeply. Over time, loneliness can grow, not because people left, but because negative thoughts built walls you didn't realize you were constructing. The emotional cost becomes heavier than any physical burden. Your physical well-being is deeply intertwined with your mental state, and negative thoughts can take a toll on your body. Stress hormones rise when your mind constantly anticipates problems or replays past mistakes. This tension shows up as headaches, fatigue, muscle tightness, and disrupted sleep. Your immune system weakens, making you more vulnerable to illness. Even your appetite and energy levels become unstable, leaving you drained without a clear cause. The body responds to the mind, and negativity quietly shapes your daily physical experience. Creativity and problem-solving weaken when negativity becomes the dominant voice in your mind. When you expect failure or criticism, your mind restricts its ability to imagine new possibilities. Ideas feel unsafe, experimentation feels risky, and exploration feels unnecessary. Innovation cannot thrive in an environment filled with mental limitations. This prevents growth and stops you from discovering unique talents or solutions you might naturally possess. Negativity costs you the chance to see how capable you truly are. Self-worth is one of the most fragile parts of your inner world, and negative thinking targets it with precision. Each discouraging thought chips away at your confidence, making you feel smaller and less deserving. These thoughts often disguise themselves as realism or caution, but they slowly build the belief that you are not enough. With this mindset, you start to settle for less than you deserve, whether in relationships, opportunities, or personal goals. The hidden cost becomes the shrinking of your own identity. What remains is a version of yourself shaped by doubt, instead of truth. Decision-making also becomes clouded when negativity takes root. Choices feel heavier because your mind focuses on what could go wrong instead of what might go right. You may overthink every option, replay every possible consequence, and trap yourself in a cycle of hesitation. This constant mental noise makes it difficult to trust yourself, weakening your ability to move confidently in any direction. The cost of indecision grows as opportunities pass and clarity fades. Your inner voice becomes confusing rather than guiding. Negativity affects your ability to handle challenges with resilience. When difficulties arise, a negative mindset magnifies the obstacle and diminishes your strength. Instead of seeing the situation as manageable, you begin to feel powerless or stuck. This perspective makes recovery slower and setbacks feel more personal than they actually are. The mind transforms challenges into threats, leaving you feeling defeated before you even begin. The hidden cost is not the challenge itself, but the belief that you cannot overcome it. Your long-term happiness becomes limited when negativity remains unchallenged. Moments that could bring joy are overshadowed by worry, fear, or skepticism. Even success feels temporary because your thoughts warn you it won't last. This dampens your ability to fully experience gratitude, accomplishment, or excitement. Life becomes a series of guarded emotions instead of genuine experiences. The cost is not just unhappiness, but the inability to feel happiness even when it arrives. The deepest cost of negative thinking is the disconnect from who you truly are. Beneath all the doubt, fear, and self-criticism exists a version of you that is capable, brave, and deserving of peace. Negativity hides this truth, convincing you that you must live small to stay safe. But the truth is that your mind can be reclaimed and reshaped. When you begin to recognize the hidden cost, you also begin to see the possibility of freedom. What once controlled you can become the very reason you choose to rise. The stories in your mind are often formed long before you realize they exist. They come from experiences, words you heard growing up, and moments that shaped how you see yourself and the world. Over time, these stories become automatic, guiding your reactions and beliefs without your awareness. Some of them empower you, while others limit your potential in ways that feel invisible. The mind tends to replay the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. Understanding these inner narratives is the first step toward rewriting them. Each story you carry has a powerful emotional imprint attached to it. When the mind repeats a negative narrative, your emotions learn to follow that path, even if it leads you away from happiness. You may start believing that you're not good enough, not capable, or not deserving of success. These beliefs don't come from truth, they come from repetition. As the story gets stronger, it begins to shape your behavior and choices. Over time, it becomes difficult to separate who you truly are from what your thoughts have convinced you to accept. Your inner stories also influence how you interpret the present. If you carry a narrative of being unworthy, every compliment feels suspicious, and every mistake feels like proof. If you hold a belief that life is always hard, even simple challenges feel overwhelming. These interpretations are not reflections of reality, but reflections of the lens created by old experiences. By examining the origins of these stories, you begin to see how many of them were built on assumptions rather than fact. Awareness breaks the illusion and opens the door to change. Rewriting your inner stories requires the courage to question what you've always believed about yourself. Many thoughts feel permanent simply because they are familiar, not because they are accurate. Challenging these beliefs involves asking whether they still serve the person you are becoming. When you realize that a thought is outdated or rooted in fear, you gain the power to reshape it. This mental shift allows you to create narratives that reflect growth rather than limitation. The mind becomes a space where truth can replace distortion. Every new story you create begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who struggles, you start seeing yourself as someone who is learning. Instead of viewing challenges as proof of weakness, you begin viewing them as stepping stones. This change in perspective transforms the relationship you have with your own mind. It teaches you to respond with clarity rather than react from old wounds. With consistent practice, these new interpretations become your new mental foundation. This is how transformation takes root. Your thoughts gain strength through repetition, which means new stories require patience. The mind needs time to adjust to unfamiliar beliefs, especially when they contradict old patterns. At first, the new narratives may feel uncomfortable or unrealistic. With continued reinforcement, they begin to feel natural and trustworthy. This process is not about forcing positivity, but about inviting truth into your mental dialogue. The more you nurture these new ideas, the more they become part of your identity. Over time, they shape a more grounded and confident version of you. The stories you write for yourself should be aligned with your values, your goals, and the life you want to build. When your inner narrative supports your direction, you move with purpose rather than hesitation. You begin to choose actions that reflect your worth rather than your fear. This coherence between thoughts and goals creates a steady inner rhythm that strengthens your resilience. The mind starts working for you instead of against you. Your daily experience shifts from confusion to clarity. Letting go of old stories often means facing emotions you once avoided. These emotions are not signs of weakness, but signs of healing. As you release past narratives, you create space for new ones to grow. This emotional release can feel uncomfortable, yet it is deeply freeing. You reclaim pieces of yourself that were hidden beneath layers of doubt and insecurity. Each moment of release brings you closer to who you truly are. This process reminds you that your mind, like your life, can be reshaped. Rewriting your stories also changes the way you interact with others. When you see yourself through a more compassionate lens, you begin to view others with greater understanding as well. You stop expecting rejection or judgment and start expecting connection. This shift improves your relationships and builds deeper trust. You no longer approach the world from a place of fear, but from a place of grounded self-worth. The energy you carry influences everything around you, creating a cycle of positive growth. The true power of rewriting your stories lies in the freedom it gives you to create a future aligned with your authentic self. You are no longer bound by assumptions or past experiences that once defined you. Each new thought becomes a step toward a mindset built on clarity, confidence, and truth. This inner transformation allows you to rise beyond limitations and discover your full potential. The stories that once held you back are replaced by stories that guide you forward. Your mind becomes a place of possibility instead of restriction. Overthinking often begins with a small thought that grows into a storm before you realize what's happening. The mind takes a simple idea and turns it into a chain of possibilities, each one more stressful than the last. This mental cycle becomes exhausting, draining your energy and clouding your judgment. Instead of finding clarity, you end up tangled in worries that lead nowhere. Overthinking creates a sense of urgency where none exists, making everything feel heavier than it actually is. Breaking this loop starts with understanding how it forms. The mind overthinks when it feels unsafe or uncertain, even if the situation isn't truly dangerous. It tries to solve problems that haven't happened yet, believing that constant analysis will protect you. But this habit only creates more fear, because the mind begins focusing on worst-case scenarios. These imagined threats shape your emotions, making you feel anxious about things that may never occur. The cycle strengthens as your thoughts feed your feelings, and your feelings feed your thoughts. The loop becomes familiar, even though it brings discomfort. Overthinking often steals your ability to enjoy the present moment. Instead of experiencing what's in front of you, your attention drifts into imagined futures or replayed memories. The mind becomes a place of mental noise, where clarity is replaced by confusion. This disconnect from the present makes it difficult to appreciate what is going well in your life. You may miss opportunities for peace because your thoughts are tied to what-ifs and maybes. Breaking the loop requires learning to return your awareness to the moment you're actually living. The habit of overthinking also affects your confidence. When you constantly analyze your decisions, you begin doubting your ability to choose wisely. Every choice feels like it carries enormous consequences, even if it's simple. This doubt slows your progress and makes you second-guess yourself. You start relying on imagined outcomes rather than your own judgment. Over time, this weakens your belief in your own capability. Rebuilding confidence means reducing the power that overthinking holds over your decisions. Emotions intensify when you overthink because your mind creates stories around every feeling. A small discomfort becomes a sign of something bigger, and a minor worry becomes a looming threat. Instead of letting emotions move naturally through you, overthinking traps them in place. This creates a sense of heaviness that lingers long after the moment has passed. Understanding the difference between a feeling and a thought is essential to breaking the cycle. Once you separate the two, the emotional intensity begins to lessen. The mind seeks closure when it overthinks, believing that if it just analyzes enough, it will find a perfect solution. But perfection is impossible, and the search for it only deepens the loop. The more you try to control every outcome, the more overwhelmed you become. This pursuit of certainty keeps you locked in a cycle that cannot be solved through thinking alone. Learning to accept that uncertainty is part of life helps loosen the grip of overthinking. With acceptance comes a new sense of inner freedom. Breaking the loop also involves changing your relationship with mistakes. Overthinking often comes from the fear of doing something wrong or being judged by others. This fear makes you overly cautious and hesitant. When you view mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than permanent failures, your mind stops treating every action as a risk. This shift allows you to move more freely and confidently. You begin seeing progress as more valuable than perfection. Over time, this reduces the pressure that fuels overthinking. Your body plays a significant role in the cycle of overthinking as well. When your mind becomes overwhelmed, your physical state reacts with tension, restlessness, or fatigue. These sensations can then trigger even more thoughts, creating a cycle that affects both mind and body. By calming your physical state, you create space for your thoughts to slow down. Gentle breathing, grounding yourself, or relaxing your muscles can interrupt the loop. This connection reminds you that stopping overthinking is not only a mental shift, but a physical one too. The environment around you influences how easily you fall into overthinking. When you are surrounded by pressure, noise, or emotional chaos, your mind becomes more reactive. Creating a calmer environment internally and externally helps reduce the noise that fuels the loop. When your surroundings support your peace, your thoughts become easier to manage. This does not mean avoiding life's challenges, but creating conditions that allow your mind to think clearly. A balanced environment strengthens your ability to break free from mental spirals. The most important step in breaking the loop of overthinking is learning to trust yourself again. When you believe in your ability to handle what comes your way, the need to predict every outcome fades. You begin acting from a place of clarity instead of fear. Trust allows you to make decisions without needing endless reassurance. It brings you back to a grounded version of yourself, calm, steady, and confident. As trust grows, the loop weakens until it no longer controls your life. Awareness is the foundation of understanding your inner world, giving you the ability to observe your thoughts instead of becoming overwhelmed by them. When you cultivate awareness, you gain a clearer sense of how your mind operates and why certain patterns continue repeating. This clarity allows you to distinguish between thoughts that serve you and thoughts that drain your energy. Without awareness, the mind runs on automatic pilot, replaying old stories and fears without your permission. With awareness, you begin to reclaim control over your internal narrative. This shift opens the door to genuine personal growth. Seeing your thoughts clearly means noticing them as they arise, without immediately accepting them as truth. Many thoughts are shaped by past experiences, assumptions, or emotional reactions, not by reality. When you observe them from a place of stillness, you realize how often the mind exaggerates or distorts situations. This understanding helps reduce emotional intensity and prevents you from reacting impulsively. Awareness becomes a quiet space where clarity can grow. Through this clarity, you begin to reshape your relationship with your mind. Awareness is not about forcing your thoughts to change, it is about witnessing them without judgment. When you approach your inner world with curiosity rather than criticism, your thoughts lose their power to intimidate you. This gentle approach creates emotional safety within yourself, allowing uncomfortable feelings to surface without overwhelming you. As you observe your thoughts with patience, they naturally begin to lose their grip. This gradual softening brings a new sense of peace. It becomes easier to respond with wisdom instead of reacting out of fear. Noticing your thoughts also reveals the patterns that guide your behavior. Some patterns may push you toward overthinking, while others may trigger anxiety or self-doubt. Awareness acts like a light shining on these patterns, allowing you to see their origins more clearly. You begin to understand why certain situations affect you more deeply than others. Instead of feeling confused about your reactions, you gain insight into the triggers behind them. This insight empowers you to choose new responses. Over time, this leads to emotional stability and inner strength. When you become aware of your thoughts, you also uncover the stories you tell yourself about who you are. These stories may be old, outdated, or rooted in insecurity, yet they continue to shape your identity. Awareness gives you the clarity to challenge these stories and recognize the truth beneath them. You begin to see that you are not defined by your fears or assumptions. This realization expands your sense of self, allowing you to grow into someone more confident and grounded. Awareness becomes the doorway to a new self-understanding. Awareness helps separate your emotions from your thoughts, revealing that the two are not always connected. Thoughts can appear without emotional truth, and emotions can arise without logical explanation. When you see this separation clearly, you stop interpreting each feeling as evidence of something negative. This distinction gives you the freedom to experience emotions without letting them dictate your choices. Your mind becomes a more balanced space. With time, this balance becomes a natural part of your daily life. Seeing your thoughts clearly also reduces the impact of fear-based thinking. When a fearful thought arises, awareness helps you step back and examine it from a rational perspective. You can question whether the fear is real or imagined, temporary or long-standing. This examination helps shrink the intensity of fear and prevents it from controlling your actions. Instead of feeling trapped by imagined dangers, you begin to act from a grounded state. This shift creates courage where fear once dominated. Awareness transforms your ability to focus. When your mind is filled with distractions, your thoughts move in many directions at once, making it hard to stay centered. By observing these distractions without engaging with them, you gradually strengthen your mental presence. This presence allows you to stay attentive to what truly matters in each moment. With consistent practice, your mind becomes more disciplined and less reactive. Focus becomes a natural expression of awareness. Awareness also deepens your connection with your intuition. When your mind is cluttered with noise, it becomes difficult to hear the quiet wisdom within you. By observing your thoughts and letting them settle, you create space for deeper insight to surface. This insight often appears as a feeling, a sense of knowing, or a subtle inner guidance. Trusting these signals becomes easier when you are not clouded by mental chatter. This intuitive clarity supports wiser decisions and clearer direction. Seeing your thoughts clearly helps you break the habit of internal resistance. Many people spend emotional energy fighting their own thoughts, trying to force them away or silence them. This resistance often makes the thoughts stronger. Awareness teaches a different approach, acknowledging the thoughts without identifying with them. As you let them pass without resistance, they naturally lose intensity. This reduces inner conflict and increases emotional ease. The mind begins to feel like a more peaceful place. Awareness strengthens emotional resilience by helping you understand your reactions without getting lost in them. When a strong emotion arises, awareness lets you observe it with patience so it can move through you instead of becoming stuck. By focusing on the present experience rather than the story around it, you learn to navigate emotions with clarity. Over time, this builds confidence in your ability to handle whatever arises. Emotional resilience becomes a result of steady inner observation. Awareness helps you notice the thoughts that drain your confidence. These thoughts often appear quietly, repeating discouraging messages that weaken your belief in yourself. When you observe them clearly, you begin to recognize them as old mental habits rather than truths about who you are. This recognition reduces their influence and makes room for thoughts that reinforce strength. As these empowering thoughts grow, your confidence becomes more grounded. You begin trusting yourself more deeply. Seeing your thoughts clearly reveals how often they pull you away from the present moment. The mind frequently revisits past memories or imagines future scenarios, creating stress that doesn't need to exist. Awareness helps bring your attention back to what is happening right now. This presence offers relief from mental fatigue and emotional pressure. It reminds you that the present is the only place where clarity exists. Through this grounding, you find peace in the simplicity of the moment. Awareness also shines a light on the expectations you place on yourself. Many of these expectations come from external influences or outdated beliefs about what you should be. When you observe these expectations, you can determine which ones support your well-being and which ones weigh you down. This understanding allows you to release unrealistic pressures. As you let go of these burdens, you begin to live with greater freedom. Your actions become aligned with your true values. Awareness helps you recognize the difference between helpful thinking and excessive thinking. Helpful thoughts guide you, inspire solutions, and support your growth. Excessive thoughts create confusion, stress, and emotional heaviness. When you observe your thinking clearly, you learn to recognize this distinction instantly. This awareness helps you shift your focus to thoughts that contribute to your well-being. The mind becomes more purposeful and less chaotic. This supports mental clarity throughout the day. Seeing your thoughts clearly teaches you that you are not your thoughts. They arise, pass through the mind, and disappear. But they do not define your worth or your identity. When you understand this, the power of negative thoughts decreases dramatically. You no longer feel the need to take every thought seriously. Instead, you choose which thoughts deserve your attention. This choice becomes a form of inner freedom. You begin living from your true self rather than your mental patterns. Awareness nurtures inner patience by teaching you how to sit with discomfort without trying to escape it. Many people run from uncomfortable thoughts, hoping distraction will make them disappear. Awareness invites you to stay present long enough to understand the discomfort. This understanding leads to healing because you learn what the discomfort is trying to reveal. Over time, your ability to stay calm during challenging moments grows stronger. Patience becomes a natural part of your inner environment. The clarity that comes from awareness helps you uncover your deepest needs. When your mind is filled with constant thinking, it becomes difficult to hear what you truly want. By observing your inner landscape, you create space for your authentic desires to rise. These desires often reflect your values, your dreams, and your emotional truths. As you understand them more deeply, you begin making choices that honor your inner self. This alignment brings a sense of fulfillment that external achievements cannot provide. Awareness helps dissolve old emotional wounds by allowing you to revisit them with compassion rather than fear. When these memories arise, observing them calmly helps you understand how they continue influencing your present life. This understanding allows you to release the emotional weight they carry. As you let go, you no longer react from a place of old pain. You move forward with emotional clarity. Healing becomes a natural outcome of awareness. The power of awareness lies in its ability to transform your relationship with your own mind. Instead of being controlled by automatic thoughts, you become the observer who chooses how to respond. This shift brings peace, confidence, and a renewed sense of inner strength. Your thoughts become tools rather than obstacles. Your mind becomes a supportive companion rather than a source of stress. Awareness becomes the key that unlocks mental freedom. Through awareness, you discover that the mind is not the enemy, but a space that simply needs guidance. When you watch your thoughts with clarity, you learn to direct them with intention. This guidance creates a harmonious inner environment where thoughts arise without dominating your well-being. Your reality becomes shaped by conscious understanding rather than unconscious reaction. Awareness brings you back to yourself in the most powerful way. It allows you to live with clarity, presence, and authenticity. The inner voice you carry influences every choice you make, shaping the way you move through the world. This voice often forms during childhood, through experiences, environment, and the words you absorb from others. Over time, it becomes the narrator of your life, offering commentary on your actions and abilities. When this voice is harsh or fearful, it limits your confidence and dims your potential. Reprogramming it means giving yourself the chance to grow beyond old patterns. It becomes a journey of reclaiming your personal power. Your inner voice reflects the beliefs you hold about yourself, many of which may not truly belong to you. Some of these beliefs were inherited from people who did not understand your worth, while others were shaped during moments of vulnerability. These internal patterns repeat themselves until they feel like truth. When you begin examining them, you see how often they were built on misunderstandings or emotional wounds rather than reality. This awareness marks the beginning of transformation. It allows you to replace doubt with clarity. Strengthening your inner voice requires acknowledging how deeply negative messages can influence your identity. When you hear repeated criticism or discouragement, your mind begins to internalize it as part of who you are. This quiet conditioning impacts your ambition, relationships, and self-image. Recognizing these messages helps break their control. Instead of believing them automatically, you begin questioning their accuracy. This inner shift weakens the power of old narratives. With time, your voice becomes kinder and more supportive. Reprogramming your inner voice means creating space for self-compassion. Compassion is not about ignoring mistakes, but understanding them without self-punishment. When you respond to your thoughts with kindness, your mind relaxes and becomes more willing to change. Harshness creates fear, but compassion creates growth. This gentle approach inspires courage, helping you face challenges without feeling defeated. Compassion becomes the fuel that strengthens your inner foundation. It transforms the way you relate to yourself on a daily basis. Your inner voice becomes stronger when you learn to interrupt negative self-talk. These thoughts often appear automatically, especially during stressful or uncertain moments. By noticing them early, you prevent them from shaping your emotions and actions. A brief pause helps you create distance from old patterns. This pause allows you to choose a different response, one rooted in clarity rather than habit. Over time, this new mental approach becomes natural. The voice of strength begins to replace the voice of fear. Every encouraging word you speak to yourself builds a new mental habit. Just as negativity grows through repetition, strength does as well. When you consistently affirm your abilities, your mind starts trusting those messages. These supportive thoughts guide your decisions and increase your confidence. You begin to see yourself as capable of handling whatever life presents. Encouragement becomes a steady internal presence rather than something you seek externally. This internal shift empowers your actions in meaningful ways. A strong inner voice develops when you consciously choose thoughts that align with your goals. Instead of letting your mind wander into doubt, you guide it toward beliefs that support your direction. This alignment creates a sense of inner harmony, allowing your thoughts and intentions to work together. When your inner voice reflects your aspirations, you feel more grounded and clear. This clarity strengthens your resolve and fuels consistent progress. The mind begins to function as an ally. Reprogramming your inner voice involves letting go of unrealistic expectations. Many people hold themselves to perfectionistic standards that are impossible to meet. These expectations create pressure that leads to self-criticism and discouragement. When you release these burdens, you free yourself to grow at a natural pace. This freedom helps your inner voice become more encouraging and realistic. Instead of demanding perfection, it supports steady improvement. This shift brings balance and emotional ease. Your inner voice gains strength when it speaks from experience rather than fear. Fear-based thinking exaggerates risks and minimizes your capabilities. When you reflect on past successes, you remind yourself of your resilience and adaptability. These reminders serve as evidence that you can overcome challenges. The more you focus on your strengths, the more confident your inner voice becomes. Confidence grows from acknowledging what you've already achieved. This perspective transforms your mindset. Reprogramming your inner voice means giving yourself permission to change. Many people cling to old identities, fearing that growth will disrupt their sense of self. This resistance keeps them stuck in familiar but limiting patterns. When you embrace change, you allow your inner voice to evolve with you. This evolution opens new possibilities for self-expression and growth. Change becomes a sign of strength rather than instability. Your inner voice adapts to reflect who you are becoming. A strong inner voice emerges from learning to trust yourself. Trust develops when you consistently act in alignment with your values and intentions. Each small decision reinforces your ability to rely on your judgment. As trust grows, doubt loses its influence. You stop seeking approval from others because your inner assurance becomes stronger. This trust becomes a powerful anchor in moments of uncertainty. It helps you move through life with confidence and independence. Your inner voice becomes resilient when you engage with challenges instead of avoiding them. Avoidance may offer temporary comfort, but facing difficulties builds mental strength. When you step into uncomfortable situations with awareness, your inner voice learns that you are capable of handling discomfort. This reinforces your courage and lessens the impact of future fears. Resilience develops through consistent exposure to challenges. The more you grow, the stronger your internal guidance becomes. Reprogramming your inner voice involves accepting your imperfections. Imperfection is not a sign of weakness, but a part of being human. When you embrace your flaws, you release the pressure to meet unrealistic standards. This acceptance brings emotional relief and allows your inner voice to support your growth without harsh criticism. Acceptance does not mean settling, it means understanding your humanity. This understanding creates a healthier and more stable internal environment. Your inner voice becomes powerful when it speaks with clarity instead of confusion. Clarity arises when you quiet the noise of overthinking and focus on what truly matters. This focused attention strengthens your ability to make decisions and interpret situations accurately. When clarity guides your inner voice, it becomes easier to navigate uncertainty. You respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. This grounded perspective becomes a valuable tool in everyday life. Awareness plays a significant role in shaping your inner voice. When you watch your thoughts without getting attached to them, you create space for conscious choice. Awareness helps you identify which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones do not. This discernment strengthens your mental boundaries. With time, your inner voice becomes more selective and intentional. It no longer absorbs negativity without question. Instead, it advocates for your well-being. Reprogramming your inner voice means recognizing your accomplishments, both big and small. Many people overlook their progress, focusing only on what they have not achieved. This mindset weakens their sense of capability. When you acknowledge your efforts, you reinforce your belief in your own growth. These acknowledgements serve as reminders of your potential. They help your inner voice celebrate your journey rather than criticize it. Celebration nurtures confidence. Your inner voice becomes stronger when you protect your mental environment. External influences such as criticism, negativity, or unhealthy relationships can weaken your sense of self. By setting boundaries, you create space for your inner voice to grow without interference. This space allows you to develop your own opinions and values. When your inner world is protected, your thoughts remain clear and grounded. Protection becomes a form of self-respect. Reprogramming your inner voice involves viewing challenges as opportunities for expansion. Difficult moments are not evidence of weakness, but gateways to deeper understanding. When you shift your perspective, your inner voice begins encouraging you rather than discouraging you. This reframing builds mental flexibility and emotional strength. You become more confident in your ability to navigate obstacles. Over time, this mindset becomes natural. Your inner voice grows stronger when you practice patience with yourself. Growth takes time, and pressure often leads to burnout or discouragement. Patience allows your mind to adjust to new patterns without feeling rushed. Each moment of patience reinforces self-trust and emotional stability. This gentle approach keeps you grounded during periods of change. Patience becomes a steady companion on your journey. Reprogramming your inner voice means choosing thoughts that reflect your worth. You deserve to think of yourself with dignity, respect, and compassion. When your inner voice speaks from a place of worthiness, your actions begin to reflect that belief. You make choices that support your well-being and honor your potential. This internal dignity shapes the way you interact with the world. Worthiness becomes the foundation of your mindset. A strong inner voice emerges when you consistently choose empowerment over doubt. Each day offers an opportunity to reinforce this choice. As empowering thoughts become your default, your confidence strengthens and your stress decreases. You navigate life with greater ease because your inner guidance is steady and supportive. This transformation does not happen overnight, but through persistent practice. In time, your inner voice becomes a source of strength that shapes your entire life. An emotional reset begins with recognizing the heaviness you carry, even when you can't fully explain its source. This weight often builds slowly through unresolved feelings, painful memories, and unspoken frustrations. Over time, it becomes part of your emotional landscape, influencing your mood and reactions without your awareness. This heaviness shows up in your body as tension, in your mind as restlessness, and in your spirit as exhaustion. When you acknowledge this burden, you create space for healing. Awareness becomes the first step toward release. Emotional burdens often come from holding on to experiences you never had the chance to process. These moments get stored inside you, waiting for understanding or closure. The mind may attempt to ignore them, but the body continues to respond as if the events are still present. This creates emotional patterns that repeat themselves in your thoughts and relationships. Understanding these stored experiences allows you to see how deeply they influence your present life. This understanding opens the door to transformation. It helps you begin releasing the past. Releasing emotional weight requires honesty with yourself. Many people push their feelings aside out of fear that acknowledging them will make the pain stronger. In reality, suppressing emotions only strengthens their grip. When you face them gently, they lose their intensity. This process asks you to meet your feelings with courage and tenderness. As you acknowledge them, you begin to reclaim your emotional freedom. Honesty becomes a bridge between pain and healing. Your emotions carry valuable messages about your inner world. Sadness may signal unmet needs, anger may indicate boundaries crossed, and fear may reveal areas where you feel unprotected. When you listen to these signals, you gain insight into what requires attention. Ignoring them only deepens inner conflict. By understanding what your emotions are trying to express, you create clarity within yourself. This clarity helps you address the root of the heaviness. Emotional awareness leads to lasting change. Letting go of emotional weight often means releasing expectations you placed on yourself or others. Expectations become heavy when they remain unmet or unrealistic. They create disappointment, resentment, and frustration that linger long after the moment has passed. By recognizing which expectations no longer serve your well-being, you free yourself from unnecessary pressure. This release allows you to breathe more fully and live with more ease. It opens space for healthier emotional patterns. Your environment plays a major role in emotional accumulation. Stressful surroundings, demanding relationships, and constant noise can overwhelm your inner system. The mind and body absorb these influences, creating emotional tension that grows over time. When you step back from these external pressures, you give yourself the opportunity to reset. Even small moments of calm help soften emotional strain. Creating supportive surroundings becomes an act of self-care. It helps lighten the emotional load. Emotional release often requires giving yourself permission to slow down. Many people rush through life, hoping productivity will drown out their discomfort. This speed prevents the mind from processing emotions fully. Slowing down invites reflection, rest, and understanding. These moments of stillness allow buried emotions to rise in manageable ways. As you create space to feel, you begin to heal. Slowness becomes a powerful form of emotional reset. Your body stores emotional weight in ways that may surprise you. Tight shoulders, shallow breathing, or a heavy chest can all be signs of emotions you haven't released. When you pay attention to these physical sensations, you gain insight into what needs care. Gentle movement, deep breathing, or relaxation can help free the tension stored within your body. This physical release supports emotional healing. The connection between mind and body becomes clear. Releasing what weighs you down involves understanding the stories you tell yourself about your pain. Sometimes the story becomes heavier than the emotion itself. When you detach the emotion from the narrative, you allow yourself to feel without judgment. This separation helps reduce emotional overload. It creates mental space for healing and clarity. Over time, the stories lose their hold on you. You reclaim your inner narrative. Emotional weight grows when you deny yourself the right to feel deeply. Many people believe that strength means hiding their emotions, but this only creates internal conflict. True strength comes from accepting your emotions without shame. When you allow yourself to feel fully, you release the energy that has been trapped inside you. This acceptance creates emotional openness. It helps your inner world become more peaceful and balanced. An emotional reset also involves recognizing which relationships drain you. Some connections take more than they give, leaving you emotionally depleted. When you become aware of these dynamics, you can choose to protect your well-being. Setting boundaries is an act of emotional preservation, not selfishness. It allows you to maintain your inner balance. Healthy boundaries become a key part of emotional release. They protect your peace. Letting go of what weighs you down sometimes requires grieving losses you never fully acknowledged. These losses may include missed opportunities, broken connections, or versions of yourself you outgrew. Grief is not a sign of weakness, but a natural part of healing. When you allow yourself to grieve, you release the emotional residue that has lingered inside you. This release creates space for renewal. Grief becomes a step toward emotional freedom. Emotional reset becomes easier when you understand that healing is not linear. Some days may feel light and freeing, while others feel heavy and confusing. This fluctuation is part of the process. When you stop expecting constant progress, you ease the pressure on yourself. You learn to trust your inner rhythm. Healing becomes a journey rather than a race. Patience makes the process sustainable. Releasing emotional weight requires forgiveness, not always for others, but often for yourself. Self-blame can become a heavy emotional anchor, keeping you trapped in past decisions. When you forgive yourself, you release the emotional burden that has held you back. This forgiveness brings relief and renewed self-compassion. It creates space for healthier thoughts and emotions. You begin to move forward with greater ease. Your emotional reset deepens when you embrace the power of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval of painful events, but understanding that they are part of your experience. When you stop resisting your past, you reclaim energy that was tied to struggle. This acceptance brings peace to the inner conflicts that weighed you down. It helps dissolve emotional tension. You learn to live with greater emotional freedom. Releasing emotional weight often means acknowledging unmet needs. These needs may include safety, connection, recognition, or rest. When these needs go unnoticed, emotional heaviness grows. By recognizing them, you take steps toward fulfilling them. Meeting your own needs becomes an act of inner care. It brings balance back into your emotional world. This balance supports long-term healing. The emotional reset process also strengthens your resilience. As you release past burdens, you develop a clearer sense of self. You learn how to navigate emotions with greater awareness and stability. This stability becomes a foundation that supports you through future challenges. Resilience grows from understanding your emotional landscape. With each release, you become stronger and more centered. Emotional freedom expands when you speak to yourself with honesty and compassion. Harsh self-talk keeps emotional weight trapped inside, while gentle inner dialogue creates room to breathe. This shift helps you respond to difficult feelings with understanding rather than fear. When your inner voice becomes supportive, your emotional world becomes lighter. Compassion transforms the weight you once carried. It helps rebuild emotional strength. Releasing emotional heaviness allows you to reconnect with forgotten parts of yourself. As the weight lifts, you rediscover joy, creativity, and curiosity that had been buried beneath stress. This reconnection brings a renewed sense of purpose and vitality. You begin to feel more present in your life. The world feels more open, and possibilities seem clearer. Emotional release restores what was once overshadowed. An emotional reset is not about eliminating emotions, but learning to let them flow without holding them hostage. When you allow emotions to move naturally, they no longer accumulate into heavy burdens. This flow creates inner spaciousness and clarity. You learn to trust the wisdom of your emotional system. The mind and heart begin to work together. This harmony becomes a lasting source of peace. Emotional release is a continual process, one that evolves as you grow. Each time you let go, you create room for new levels of understanding and strength. Your mind becomes clearer, your heart becomes lighter, and your spirit becomes more open. The weight that once held you down no longer controls your life. You step into a renewed emotional state filled with space, clarity, and freedom. This reset becomes the foundation for lasting inner transformation. A mindset that protects your peace begins with understanding what peace truly means for you. Peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of emotional stability and clarity, even when life becomes complicated. It is the ability to remain centered while navigating challenges. To build this mindset, you must first recognize the moments when your inner calm is disrupted. These disruptions reveal what needs strengthening within you. With this awareness, peace becomes something you actively create rather than passively hope for. Protecting your peace requires learning how to separate your energy from external chaos. Life is full of unexpected events, conflicting opinions, and stressful situations. Without a strong mindset, these outside influences can easily overwhelm your emotional world. When you develop the ability to step back internally, you create space between what happens around you and what happens within you. This space becomes a shield that prevents unnecessary stress from entering your mind. It is a powerful skill that grows with practice. A peaceful mindset thrives on clarity. When your thoughts are scattered or consumed by worry, your peace becomes fragile. Finding clarity involves distinguishing between what you can control and what you cannot. By focusing only on what belongs to you, you free yourself from mental clutter. This clarity lightens emotional weight and allows you to direct your energy intentionally. The more you practice this distinction, the stronger your inner stability becomes. Clarity becomes a cornerstone of peace. Protecting your peace also requires emotional boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers meant to push others away, but gentle limits that keep your well-being intact. When you honor your emotional capacity, you prevent burnout and resentment. These boundaries help you recognize when someone's behavior drains your energy or disrupts your balance. By enforcing them with calmness and confidence, you create a space where your inner world remains safe. Emotional boundaries become a form of self-respect. A peaceful mindset grows when you learn to redirect your attention. The mind tends to gravitate toward problems, fears, or negativity because it seeks protection. When you consciously shift your focus towards solutions, gratitude, or grounded thoughts, you weaken the pull of negativity. This redirection does not ignore difficulties. It simply prevents them from taking over your mental space. Over time, the mind begins to naturally settle into a more balanced perspective. Attention becomes a tool for peace. Cultivating inner peace involves releasing the need to react to everything. Not all situations require your emotional involvement. When you respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively, you protect your mental clarity. This restraint gives you the power to choose which situations deserve your energy. As you practice responding with intention, you reduce unnecessary drama and internal conflict. This calm approach becomes a steady part of your mindset. It strengthens your emotional resilience. A mindset that protects your peace values rest as much as productivity. Many people push themselves constantly, believing that stillness is unproductive. In reality, rest restores your emotional balance and sharpens your perspective. When you allow yourself moments of pause, your mind resets and becomes more grounded. Rest becomes a way to reconnect with your inner world. It supports your emotional health and protects your peace from burnout. Peace grows when you accept that not everything needs to be controlled. Control often stems from fear, and fear disrupts emotional stability. By letting go of the pressure to manage every outcome, you create room for flexibility. This acceptance brings ease to your mind and softens your emotional reactions. It allows life to unfold naturally without constant resistance. The more you practice this surrender, the more peaceful your mindset becomes. A peaceful mindset develops through self-awareness. When you understand your triggers, patterns, and emotional habits, you gain the ability to navigate them with intention. Self-awareness helps you anticipate what might disturb your peace and prepare for it with clarity. Instead of being thrown off balance, you respond with understanding. This insight strengthens your inner foundation. It makes peace something you can maintain even during challenges. Protecting your peace involves embracing simplicity. A cluttered life creates a cluttered mind, leaving little room for calm. When you simplify your routines, thoughts, and expectations, you reduce unnecessary stress. Simplicity brings order to your internal world and helps you focus on what truly matters. It becomes easier to maintain emotional balance when your life is not overloaded with distractions. Simplicity becomes an anchor for your peace. A peaceful mindset values patience. Impatience leads to frustration, tension, and unnecessary pressure. When you practice patience, you allow situations to unfold without forcing outcomes. This creates emotional harmony and reduces mental strain. Patience also helps you navigate uncertainty with steadiness. Over time, this gentle approach strengthens your capacity to remain calm. It is a quiet yet powerful guardian of your peace. Peace is strengthened when you give yourself permission to disconnect. Stepping away from noise, conflict, or overstimulation helps reset your emotional system. Disconnecting does not mean avoiding life. It means protecting your inner world from constant demands. These quiet moments help you recharge mentally and emotionally. They remind you that peace is not found in chaos, but in intentional calm. Disconnecting becomes an act of inner care. A mindset that protects your peace begins to flourish when you stop internalizing everything. Not every comment, situation, or emotion deserves a place within you. When you stop taking things personally, you reduce emotional burden and free yourself from unnecessary suffering. This shift allows you to see situations more objectively rather than emotionally. The mind becomes less reactive and more grounded. Peace grows naturally from this objectivity. Peace deepens when you learn to let go of grudges. Holding on to anger or resentment keeps your emotional system weighed down. By releasing these heavy feelings, you create room for inner lightness. Forgiveness becomes a way to cleanse your heart, not a way to excuse others. This release frees your energy for more meaningful emotions. Peace becomes easier to protect when your heart is not carrying old hurts. A peaceful mindset requires nurturing your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself determines how stable you feel inside. When your inner voice becomes encouraging and steady, your emotional world grows stronger. This supportive dialogue helps you face challenges without losing your balance. Your thoughts become a source of comfort rather than conflict. Inner kindness becomes a shield for your peace. Peace becomes stronger when you accept the reality of uncertainty. Life rarely follows a perfect script, and resisting this truth creates stress. When you embrace uncertainty, you release the pressure to predict everything. This openness allows you to navigate life with flexibility and calmness. Uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. It becomes a natural part of growth. Acceptance creates emotional ease. Building a peaceful mindset involves giving yourself grace. You are allowed to make mistakes, feel overwhelmed, and take breaks. Grace helps soften self-judgment and allows you to treat yourself with compassion. This gentle approach nurtures emotional stability and reduces inner conflict. When you give yourself grace, you create a mindset that feels safe and supportive. Peace thrives in this environment. A mindset that protects your peace honors silence. Silence gives your mind space to breathe and your emotions room to settle. In quiet moments, you reconnect with your intuition and restore your clarity. Silence becomes a sanctuary where your thoughts slow down and your heart relaxes. These moments strengthen your emotional foundation. They remind you that peace is available anytime you choose to pause. Peace is reinforced when you practice gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance, from stress to appreciation. This shift softens negativity and brings balance to your emotional world. When you consistently recognize what is going well, your mind becomes more grounded. Gratitude cultivates a sense of inner warmth that protects your peace. It becomes a quiet source of stability. A mindset that protects your peace grows stronger with consistency. Peace is not something you find once, it is something you nurture daily. As you repeatedly choose calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, and compassion over criticism, your inner world transforms. These choices create habits that support emotional balance. Over time, peace becomes your natural state rather than a temporary moment. A peaceful mindset is built through intention. It is a conscious decision to prioritize your inner well-being, no matter what life brings. When you choose peace, you choose strength, clarity, and emotional freedom. Your mind becomes a place of stability rather than turmoil. This inner stability shapes every area of your life. Peace becomes the foundation on which you build your strongest self. Rising into the new you begins with recognizing how far you've already come. Every shift in awareness, every release of emotional weight, and every moment of self-honesty has shaped a stronger inner foundation. This new version of yourself is not built from perfection, but from growth. As you step forward, you carry wisdom that was once hidden beneath fear and self-doubt. Your journey has prepared you to embrace clarity with an open heart. Confidence begins to bloom from this understanding. Living with clarity means seeing your life without the fog of negative thinking. Your thoughts become easier to interpret, and your emotions feel less overwhelming. Instead of being pulled by old patterns, you respond with purpose. This clarity helps you understand what aligns with your values and what distracts you from them. It becomes easier to make decisions because your mind is no longer clouded with confusion. Clarity becomes a guiding light in your everyday life. Confidence develops naturally when you stop questioning your worth. As you strengthen your inner voice and release old burdens, a new sense of assurance rises within you. This assurance is quiet but powerful, rooted in self-respect rather than external validation. You no longer need constant reassurance because you trust your own judgment. This trust becomes the heartbeat of your confidence. It allows you to move through challenges with grace. Rising into the new you also means accepting that growth is continuous. Confidence does not require certainty, it requires willingness. When you approach life with openness, you invite new experiences that help you grow further. This openness shows that you no longer fear change. Instead, you see it as an opportunity to expand your understanding. Growth becomes a natural part of your identity. You evolve without losing your sense of self. Clarity strengthens your ability to recognize what truly matters. When your mind becomes free from unnecessary noise, you begin choosing priorities intentionally. You invest your time and energy in what supports your well-being. This intentional living reduces stress and increases emotional balance. Each decision becomes a reflection of your deeper values. Clarity transforms your daily life into something meaningful. Confidence helps you express yourself authentically. You no longer hide parts of who you are to fit into expectations that never belong to you. Instead, you speak and act from a place of inner alignment. This authenticity attracts people and experiences that resonate with your true self. You stop performing for acceptance and begin living for truth. Authenticity becomes a natural expression of confidence. As you rise into the new you, you learn to appreciate your own presence. You enjoy your company without feeling the need to constantly distract yourself. This self-connection creates emotional stability that remains steady even during uncertain moments. When you enjoy who you are becoming, your confidence deepens. This appreciation becomes the foundation of inner peace. It strengthens your sense of identity. Clarity helps you navigate relationships with wisdom. You become more aware of emotional patterns, both in yourself and others. Instead of reacting out of habit, you respond with insight. This insight allows you to maintain healthy boundaries without conflict. You understand what strengthens your peace and what disrupts it. Relationships feel more balanced and supportive. Clarity becomes the key to meaningful connection. Confidence encourages you to pursue opportunities you once avoided. You stop viewing challenges as threats and start seeing them as invitations to expand your abilities. This shift fuels motivation and determination. When you trust in your capability, your actions become bold and intentional. Fear no longer dictates your choices. Confidence becomes a steady force that pushes you forward. Rising into the new you involves releasing the pressure to compare yourself to others. You begin to understand that your journey is unique and your pace is your own. Comparison becomes unnecessary because you trust the path you're on. Instead of seeking inspiration outside, you find it within your own growth. This shift frees you from insecurity. It allows your confidence to deepen naturally. Clarity guides you away from distractions that once consumed your time and energy. You become more selective about what you allow into your mind and space. This selectiveness does not come from fear, but from self-knowledge. You understand the difference between what nourishes you and what drains you. This insight strengthens your emotional boundaries. It helps you preserve your peace. Confidence grows when you learn to celebrate progress instead of waiting for perfection. Every small shift, every moment of courage, and every new understanding becomes a stepping stone. Recognizing these moments reinforces your sense of capability. You stop dismissing your achievements and start acknowledging your growth. Celebration becomes a source of empowerment. It strengthens your belief in yourself. Rising into the new you means acting in alignment with your truth. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions harmonize, you feel grounded and powerful. This alignment brings a sense of stability that remains steady even when life becomes unpredictable. You stop betraying your own needs to satisfy others. Instead, you honor your inner voice. Alignment becomes a central pillar of confidence. Clarity teaches you how to respond rather than react. This shift gives you control over your emotional world. Instead of feeling swept away by sudden feelings, you pause and understand what they mean. This understanding helps you choose actions that reflect your strength. Reactions become intentional rather than automatic. Your emotional stability becomes a sign of maturity. Confidence deepens as you learn to trust the process of life. Even when outcomes are uncertain, you feel secure in your ability to handle whatever arises. This security does not come from control, but from inner strength. You understand that challenges are temporary and that growth follows every difficulty. Trust replaces fear. Confidence becomes a natural state rather than a forced one. Rising into the new you involves embracing your own voice. You stop silencing your thoughts to make others comfortable. Instead, you express yourself with honesty and clarity. This expression strengthens your sense of individuality. You learn that your voice matters and deserves to be heard. Expression becomes an act of empowerment. It reinforces your confidence. Clarity invites you to live with intention. You stop moving through life on autopilot and begin choosing your actions with purpose. This mindfulness helps you stay aligned with your goals and values. You become more aware of how your choices shape your reality. Each step becomes deliberate and meaningful. Intention becomes a quiet guide. Confidence helps you release the fear of judgment. You understand that people's opinions are shaped by their own experiences, not your truth. This understanding frees you from trying to satisfy expectations that limit your growth. You become more comfortable living authentically. Judgment loses its power over your choices. Confidence becomes your shield. Rising into the new you means welcoming the future with openness rather than anxiety. You carry forward the strength you've built, the clarity you've gained, and the peace you've reclaimed. This mindset allows you to step into new experiences with a calm heart. You no longer fear what lies ahead because you trust who you are becoming. Hope replaces worry. Growth feels natural. Living with clarity and confidence transforms your entire experience of life. You view yourself with respect, courage, and understanding. Your choices reflect your values, and your mindset protects your peace. You rise into each day with purpose and presence. This new version of you is grounded, strong, and deeply aware. You are no longer held back by old limitations. You live with clarity at the center and confidence as your constant companion. You've walked through the layers of your mind, released what held you back, and stepped into a version of yourself built on clarity, strength, and peace. The journey doesn't end here. It continues each time you choose awareness over fear, intention over habit, and empowerment over doubt. Carry these lessons with you as reminders of the power you hold within. Your mind is no longer a place of limitation, but a space of possibility. Rise forward with confidence, knowing you have reclaimed your inner freedom.